right, you guys. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I know it's been quite a little while since we all got together. I have just been in one of those creators' moods, man. Like, there's just been too much going on in the world and just a whole bunch of stuff going on personally. So, it happens. Those of you who've been with me for a while, you know how it goes. I'll have a strong couple of weeks, then I just disappear for almost a month. So, sorry. But I am back. Let me turn this mic around so you guys can hear me a little better. That should be better. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the chat. We're back. We're back in full effect. Hopefully my sound is good. For those of you listening on playback, if you don't know, you can always fast forward past the intro commercials. I do those for people to get time to get into the room. This is a live stream, not a video. And also to advertise a few things so I don't have to waste a ton of time doing that on the front end. All right. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Let's jump right in. Welcome, everybody. We are moving on in our People of the Lie review series. As always, we have the same disclaimers for anyone who might be new. This whole entire series is going to deal with evil and spirituality. So if you find yourself to be atheistic in nature, this may not be your cup of tea because we are operating off of the assumption that all of this is real. God is real, spirit realm, things beyond our awareness or perception. We're operating off of the assumption that all of those things are real. So I recognize this may not be your cup of tea. However, you are welcome to stay and take from it what you will. Next, this content does have the potential to be very psychologically triggering. And for whatever reason, the one we're getting ready to get into really got to me. And I think that kind of froze me up too. Like, this chapter bothered me, man. It really, really did. So we're going to get into it. But do know that this is not something that is very easily brushed off. It can bring out and unearth old memories that might be very, very uncomfortable for you. So I just want you to be aware of that if you're not really necessarily in the healthiest mental place right now. If you would like some assistance getting to a healthier mental place, I do have a partnership with BetterHelp.com. Look into it, reach out to them. You'd have a therapist available to you, essentially on demand for the most part and completely virtual. So you don't even have to worry about passing any contagious illnesses to each other in that tiny office. Okay? So now that we have our resources, we have our disclaimers out of the way, let's go ahead and get started in our book review. If this is your first time, we are reviewing the book, People of the Lie, The Hope for Healing Human Evil by Dr. M. Scott Peck. So far we've gone through chapters 1 and 2. And tonight we are going to start on chapter 3. We are not going to complete chapter 3 tonight because, as we've discovered with the other chapters, it's very involved, very heavy, very deep. So the majority of these are going to have to be broken up. Okay. So we are going to start on chapter 3, which does begin on page 85. And the theme for tonight's review is everyday evil. So we've discussed this quite a bit on this channel here and there, how many of the criminals are actually free, how some of your most wicked people truly reside outside of jail, how many of these things go unnoticed in our day-to-day experience because we've been taught to believe evil looks a certain way. We've been taught to recognize evil as appearing a certain way. And they've done a very good job of that, especially through the use of things like movies, scary horror, or painting a picture of your average everyday criminal, both common and uncommon. We think we know what evil looks like. We think we know how to avoid it because we think we would know how to recognize it. Well, that's kind of the point of this whole entire chapter. Not necessarily. And that's the scary part. Evil doesn't exactly walk around wearing a badge saying, "Hello, my name is evil." That would really go contrary to its mission. So we are going to discuss your average everyday evil. And for for my grammar nerds out there, I did look this up, and that is the correct use of everyday. This use of everyday means like common or regularly occurring. Every day with a space in between means each day. So there is a difference, but I did look it up for my grammar nerds. Let's go into our book review. Welcome to everybody in the chat. Oh, don't feel left out. There's a playlist. I'll link it in the description eventually. All right. So let's get into our book review, starting with page 85. And it is the concept of you having to believe in the boogeyman or boogie woman. Okay. Just to make sure no one feels picked on. Okay. Our society, especially American society, and I'm not really sure where that comes from, possibly from the religious sector. I'm not sure where we're getting this from, but we want to believe that everybody is redeemable. We really want to believe that there's no such thing as bad people or evil people, that people just have bad circumstances and evil circumstances that make them evil. We want to believe that these people are traumatized and dealing with some deep internal traumas or even just flat out mental illness. But we never, ever, ever want to believe that a person might simply be pure evil. And I think part of that has to do with our lack of wanting to believe in that something that we can't quite touch, see, or explain. But you believe in love, don't you? So how can you believe in love, which you can't really touch, see, or explain, but you're very, very quick to dismiss evil? Okay. So in our society, we have a real problem with this. We don't like to call a duck a duck. We don't like to call things what they actually are. Sometimes we do, but quite often we are, I would say, manipulated into softening our language so as not to offend the evil offender. So they have no problem letting the evil offender offend, but God forbid we offend the evil doer, right? So this is on page 85. It says, these people may be evil, but he is not talking about my kind of people, my colleagues, my acquaintances, my friends or relatives. And that is pretty much the sentiment. This is how a lot of people get blindsided, man. Sometimes when I'm scrolling through the news and I hear or read of like a tragic event that occurred with someone, I'll say to myself, man, I wish they had found my channel or a channel similar to it. Because maybe if they had heard just one video, just one statement, one sentence might have woken them up. Woken, I don't think that's a word. I don't think that's a word. It might have woke them up and made them realize what situation they were in and caused them to start planning their exit out of that situation. And I don't know that to be factual or true. And it's very, very hard to prove, but I always think that to myself, like, man, if they could have just heard just one video, maybe it might have saved their life. My channel or anyone else is similar, but I'm actually really astounded at how many people don't watch YouTube. There's a large number of people who don't watch YouTube at all, guys. They have no relationship with it whatsoever because they really think it's just like cat videos and like stupid challenges, So they don't go to YouTube thinking there's any knowledge there. And YouTube certainly doesn't help because they like to suppress channels like mine. They do. When I first started, my channel was growing like wildfire, and then it stalled out, and we're still growing, but nowhere near the rate that we were growing initially, which is fine. But can you imagine if more people had access to this information, who it could possibly help, a life that might be saved, time that might be saved, energy that might not be wasted? Anyway, I digress. The point is, a lot of people aren't getting this information. So a lot of people are operating off of old information, old cliche, trite, worn out information. And so they don't believe in the boogeyman. They think that's in the movies or those people over there, those scary people over there. They're not close to me over here. They're way over there. I don't know evil people. And I can almost promise you, you know, at least one, at least one. Okay. So this is on page 86. And he's getting ready to set up for the story that we're going to spend a little bit of time on, which is the case of Roger and his parents. He says, we will be talking about a boy whose parents were well-to-do and who, while they demonstrated no apparent desire to literally kill him, seemed bent for whatever reason on killing his spirit. This one really got to me. I don't know what it is about this quote, but this really, really got to me, you guys. And it really bothered me, and it actually still does. Because I feel like I've encountered this more than once in my life. And I think we've discussed on this channel before how most narcissists are cowardly killers. Courage, the cowardly killer. They don't have the courage to actually kill you because that would ruin their reputation. You understand? They would be viewed as crazy and weird and psycho and now a felon, you know, a jailbird, and they can never let that happen to their reputation. But if they had a way to get away with it without ever being caught, they would probably at least try it, which is what spawned that video called Narcissists Will Casually Try to Kill You. They'll try to do it casually so as the finger can't be pointed directly at them and say, you did this, you did this. You know, there's a lot of ways to casually kill a person, accidentally, casual. You know what I mean? Accidentally on purpose. So narcissists are casual, cowardly killers. And because they can't take that hit to their reputation, they do it in other ways, just like this quote says, which is, they demonstrated no apparent desire to literally kill him, but they seem bent for whatever reason on killing his spirit. It's like, if I can't kill your body, I'm going to try to destroy your spirit. And I swear that's what I've been dealing with, you guys. In many different ways, on multiple different levels. There's so many things I haven't told y'all. There's so many things that need to be told. I just can't yet. We're just not there quite yet. But there's so many things I need to tell you guys. This stuff originates from somewhere. People ask me all the time in comments, you know, how do you know all this? Where did you get all this knowledge? And I'm like, honey, I've been contending with and battling these demons for a long time. I've gotten to know them. When you fight with somebody for a really long time, you get to know them eventually, you know? And this particular element right here, I feel is like what has been attempted on me many times. I feel like there's been multiple attempts on my life, just not in a physical sense, you know, in a spiritual sense. And prior to me really coming into the full knowledge of all of this stuff, I would say that it was working. Oh God, it was working. It was working. Because when you don't know what to call evil, you don't know exactly what you're dealing with, you have a tendency to blame yourself. So you start trying to engage in all these different little fixes to try to fix until you finally realize you're in an imbalanced, unreciprocal, demonic relationship with this entity. Because it's very hard to call them people. They don't act like people. They act like entities. Okay? So let's continue. Let's continue on with the case of Roger and his parents, okay? So I took some really sloppy notes, so I hope I can read them. I'm just going to give you a high-level summary of the case of Roger and his parents, okay? So we already know they were well-to-do from the previous quote that we just read, okay? So forgive me because this is me writing really fast, trying to make a summary because it was kind of a long story. But the purpose of the story in the book is to illustrate how subtle evil can be, okay? So long story short, Roger was the teenage son of two well-off parents, okay? The parents were very articulate, very well-dressed, and clearly had some kind of money, right? Throughout the interview, as the therapist is starting to interview the parents, it becomes very apparent that every decision they make, they put money first. You know, how much is that going to cost? Oh, that's expensive, isn't it? Oh, I don't know if we can afford that type situation, even though they're quite clearly well off. Okay. So one of the things that, you know, they got kind of weird acting about was his desire to go to boarding school. He wanted to go to boarding school. Okay. His parents flat out declined him, right? Because they feel like, oh, parents who send their kids to boarding school don't want them. And, you know, they didn't want that kind of hit on their reputation. The author noted that they were very cost conscious despite their wealth. I wrote that they're racist low key because the author actually made a recommendation for their son to go to a doctor. And they asked, you know, when they heard the last name, they said, oh, is that a Jewish last name? And the doctor was like, I don't know, maybe. Why? And she was like, oh, it doesn't make any difference to us. We were just asking. Right. And then later on in that same chapter, when she's angry, she goes, you tried to send him to a foreign doctor. Like, it just comes out, you know, if you let a narcissist talk long enough, it'll start to hop out. So low key racist, you know, not high key, low key. And then it came up. Oh, once again, the boy got in trouble. So they broke into like a school official's office or something, stole a watch and something else. So, you know, that made them send the kid to therapy, which, by the way, I just have to make a quick note here. I know this is not what this is about, but we have to talk about it because it's just kind of our cultural climate. Note that when a family is well off and a child gets in trouble, they get sent to therapy. What do you think happens to children whose families are not well off and that child breaks into somewhere and steals something? They get arrested and sent to jail. Do you see the disparity and the difference? I'm not going to go far down that rabbit hole, but I just wanted to bring it out, okay? When certain children have money, they don't get sent to jail and juvie and juvenile hall and juvenile detention. They get sent to the therapist to see what's going on. What's wrong with you? Are you having mental health issues? When a child doesn't have money and does the same thing, they get sent into the penal system. It's just something to think about. Moving on, this book was written in 1983. Something to think about. Moving on. So anyway, Bobby got to go to a parochial school or something where he was actually doing very well, working with children with different mental disabilities, if you will. He got not a scholarship. He got awarded to go on a trip for his work with these kids, right? His parents declined him to go on this trip, which was all expense paid, because he didn't clean up his room. Okay. So anyway, long story short, the therapist confronts the parents. They start to say, well, he has an alcoholic uncle. Do you think his mental problems are genetic? And the mom was like, I just don't want him to become a common criminal. Basically, very, very dismissive. Could not accept the fact that this might have something to do with the way that they had raised him or their involvement. They blamed it on genetics, DNA. They said he just might be a common criminal, like really quick to write him off, right? So that's like the high level summary. And I don't want to keep going because I'll butcher it, okay? If you have the book, you've read it. So let's keep charging forth. That just kind of sets the context, okay? So let's get into why this therapist classified these parents as evil, really. And again, this chapter really hit hard for me. It really, really did. But this is on page 100. It says, you refused him without looking into the matter any further. And I find this to be so characteristic of narcissists in general. They're very quick. You could say problem solvers, but they're not really solving any problems. They're creating problems. But they never want to look into the matter any further. Never. No matter what it is. They don't want to go any further with it. Unless it's praise or something kind of like praising them as people or something that gives them positive attention. Anything other than that, they do not want to look into the matter any further. And we could cast a wide net with this and spread this out all over the place and discuss the various issues that causes. For example, the example I brought up on the last live stream of how when customers raise issues to different businesses and the business disregards it and doesn't want to look into the matter any further, often that's a business that's on its way out of business, because matters often need to be looked into further. But narcissists are very dismissive people in so many ways. Oh man, they're very dismissive. They want to dismiss it and dismiss it quickly. Quickly, get it off the table quick. Doesn't matter what happened to it, what happens to it, or where it goes, just get it off of the table now, right? So they refused him to go on this trip without looking into the matter any further. So I also interpreted that as how they often don't want to have the conversation with you. They refuse to talk to you or talk with you or really kind of sit down and hash something out until you get to the heart of the matter. Like when I've dealt with narcs, primarily in the workplace, but even in interpersonally, I know I'm dealing with a narcissist when I'll say, tell me like what's wrong, or can you give me an example, or what do you mean? Or you basically are asking them to expound on whatever issue it is they have with you, and they cannot do it. They either can't do it or they won't do it. Because trust me, if I have an issue with someone and they actually open the door to the conversation, I'm going to express myself fully to the point where I might exercise them on accident. And that's not my intention, but my whole thing is, let's talk about this so we can sort it out and make it work. Like, guys, honestly, I personally believe almost any relationship can work out. I really believe that. I believe that you can meet practically anyone. You may not have natural loving relation or feelings, but I feel like if you can communicate with someone, you can make any relationship work in this world. And that's so cliche, right? Everyone's like, oh, communication is the heart of the relationship. Communication is all that matters. Communication is key. But do you know what communication actually is? Most people don't. Like, most people think there's a sender and a receiver and a message that goes, shut up. Yes, that's what schools taught us communication is. There's a sender and a receiver and a message that goes in between and a reception and all that. Yes. But communication truly is having the ability to, number one, open the door to even have the conversation. You have to open the door first. So first, open the door, then being willing to sit and actually listen, and then process what you heard and then respond. That's communication. And when you're responding, the other person has to have the ability to sit and listen, process what they just heard, and then respond. You know how many people cannot do that, y'all? There are so many people who cannot do that. It's stunning. Stunning how many people can't do that. Number one, they can't open the door. That door is closed and locked, and it might be hermetically sealed. So they can't open the door. So they certainly then won't be able to listen because the door is not open. And if you're not listening to anything, you're not processing anything. And if you're not processing anything, what are you going to respond with? You haven't heard anything to respond to. Most people can't do that, you guys. It's stunning, stunning. And I can't tell you, well, I've already told you, but I can't tell you how easy it is for me to identify a narcissist based on this alone. Based on this alone. Their ability to communicate or lack thereof, I'm telling you guys, it's almost 100% accuracy. It's almost 100%. Almost. Like I'm sitting here actively trying to think of a time where, based on someone's communication skills, I was wrong about them being a narcissist. And I can't think of not one incident. I'll think of it overnight. See if I can come up with an example. But I'm telling y'all, this is the number one red flag right here. Okay, just refuse to look into it any further, because what that basically is saying is, oh, I already know everything about this situation.
I don't need to know anything else. I know everything. So they're the judge, jury, and executioner in their own mind. And they've missed so much context and so many additional details that would actually really help them come to a better conclusion. Okay? So let's keep going because I could honestly stay here all night on that slide. This is also on page 100. This is the therapist talking to Roger's parents. He said, "Whew, I'm not saying you consciously want to hurt Roger, but I am saying that from a psychological point of view, your behavior indicates that on an unconscious level, you have a great deal of animosity toward him." Oh, God. Wow. And there's like massive exploding sounds going on at the same time. Like the timing couldn't be more perfect. Are we getting bombed? What is going on? Oh my. Oh, you know what it probably is? Fireworks. People are probably shooting off fireworks because it's Labor Day weekend, right? Y'all, I don't keep up with holidays anymore. I don't even know what day we're on 90% of the time. Looks like it's Sunday. So sorry about all that background noise. I guess they're fireworks. I don't know. But the timing couldn't have been more perfect because that's exactly how I was feeling inside. Like, in the urban community, oftentimes you can pick up on whether or not someone wants to fight you. It's like, do you want to fight me? You're acting like you want to fight or something. You know what I mean? Usually the language isn't quite as delicate, but this is YouTube, guys. We're family friendly over here. Okay. But it's like you start to pick up on that animosity, but you can't quite put your finger on it. It's like you are hostile towards me and I can't quite tell why. I can't quite identify where this hostility is coming from, but it makes me not trust you. Even though you haven't done anything outwardly to threaten me or quote unquote make me feel threatened, your behavior and your attitude and your energy is reading hostile. So like the quote says here, from a psychological point of view, your behavior indicates that on an unconscious level, you have a great deal of animosity towards her. So what's your beef? What is your animosity? And when you ask them that direct question, 90% of the time they can't answer it. Now I'm intrigued, y'all. I want to know what that was. I'm a little sketched out. What was that? It didn't sound like fireworks. It sounded like a car backfiring. And it did it a bunch of times and then it stopped. So anyway, yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out, right? Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Let's keep going, okay? So I know you guys have experienced this before, that animosity that you can just pick up on oozing from the narcissist. Like you could tell they would do something to you if they felt like they wouldn't get caught or felt like they wouldn't get in trouble. And that's why I often say you got to stay away from these people. You have to. They're dangerous. They do have animosity towards you. They are hostile towards you. They're just cowards. So they're not going to do anything actively and physically, but they're going to find every other way to screw with you to try to kill your spirit and your soul. Got to get away from these people. Got to. Let's move on. So this is on page 101, and it's speaking to how all depression is not biological. And we touched on this in a previous episode. You know, of course, pharmakia. Is that a word? Pharmakia? I think it is. Pharmakia, the pharmaceutical industry, of course, they would have us to believe that all depression is biological, chemical imbalance. And yes, I actively acknowledge the people who do have biological chemical imbalances. We're not talking about people with the actual body originating, coming from within depression. What I'm saying here and what this is saying on page 101 says he is suffering from a depression that is not hereditary and not incurable. In other words, it's circumstantial, it's environmental depression. In other words, of course you would be depressed after dealing with all of that, is what this is basically saying. Of course you would be depressed. Who wouldn't be depressed after dealing with all of that? Okay. So for those of you who may be either going through depression right now, or you've struggled with depression in the past, and sometimes people have like developed a certain shame around that, please don't feel ashamed, because there is a strong chance your depression wasn't the result of something you did or didn't do, or you failed as a person, or you didn't quite measure up. Your depression might have simply been a response to your environmental circumstances. And the way you know that is anytime you're away from that circumstance, you are thriving, you're green, you feel fantastic, you're bubbling over, you're happy, you're happy for no reason, you have energy, the light pours out of you whenever you're away from that particular environment. That tells you that your depression is environmental. And what might be difficult about that is the environment that might be depressing you from outward circumstances doesn't look depressing. Now that'll mess you up, where you feel guilty for being depressed in that environment because you, quote unquote, shouldn't be depressed in that environment. You should be grateful, right? You should be thankful, right? Because other people have less, right? Because, what a great blessing that you have in whatever environment that we're talking about right now, right? So how dare you feel depressed in that environment, right? But what you don't realize is perhaps there is a subtle evil in that environment that you have not identified yet. And that's why you're depressed and you can't put your finger on it, and you feel guilty for being depressed in that environment because it's a good environment. Other people who've gone through worse than you, right? So you should be thankful, right? Because you haven't gone through what they went through, right? So you have no right to be depressed, right? Depression is no respecter of persons. It doesn't live on a sliding scale in terms of your depression is not going to go, well, their situation was way worse, so we're not going to be depressed because their situation was worse. It's not how the brain works. The brain is scanning its own environment and coming to a depressed conclusion. What we do as people is try to override that natural occurrence by lying to ourselves and saying things like, well, it's a good family after all. Some people don't have a family at all, so I should be grateful, and you start to build up all these little lies trying to override it, when the truth of the matter is there's something in your environment that's subtly evil that's causing your depression, period. Okay. That doesn't mean if you are depressed, don't go see a doctor, because it could be chemical, guys. It could be hormones change. Illnesses can throw off your biological chemistry. Go make sure you're healthy. Okay. Go get checked out, make sure you're healthy. And if you're still depressed after you get a clean bill of health, well, you might have something in your environment that's evil that you haven't identified yet. Kind of like if you had a noxious gas leaking into your house, but you can't smell it, but it's making you sick and you don't know what's making you sick. Same thing. Let's keep going. This is also on page 101. This is on Narcissist Classic, Deflection. Okay. We talk about their deflection, their blame shifting, their scapegoating other people, anything to take that blame and responsibility off of them. Okay. So this says, what strikes me about all of this is that this is the doctor talking to the parents, Roger's parents. He says, what strikes me about all of this is that the two of you seem more eager to believe that Roger has an incurable illness, more willing to write him off than to believe that you yourselves might be in need of treatment. Okay. So this is coming after the therapist. Oh man, I think. Oh yeah, this is after the therapist had referred Roger to the other therapist. And then they were like, well, that's just not an option. That's expensive and blah, 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 blah. They're like, do you have any other suggestions? He said, well, yes, you two need to go to therapy. The two of you need to go sit on a therapist's couch and sort it out. Mm-hmm. And that's what generated this quote, is that basically they want to believe something's wrong with Roger and not them, and not the fact that they might be in need of some type of treatment. You see? Like, oh, I can only imagine the conversation they had in the car on the way home about this doctor. Like, how dare he suggest something's wrong with us? Nothing's wrong with us. Oh, and actually, they even kind of said that in the book. The dad starts going on about, how successful they've been in their career. That's all narcissists care about. Their career and money and career and money and career and money. And you see how this little global health situation we're in has threatened both career and money. And you see how they're acting. Where is it? Where is it? Such a long story. Hold on. Here it is. Here it is. So this is after he told them that they need to go to therapy. Basically, the dad says, this is on page 100. I'm not boasting, but it seems to me I've been quite successful in my profession. My wife also has been rather successful. We have no problems with our other child. And my wife is very much a community leader, She's a member of the zoning board and highly active in church affairs. I am intrigued as to why you might consider us mentally ill. So in other words, we are model citizens. We are law-abiding, tax-paying citizens who are wicked to the core. Like my trust levels, y'all need to start looking at people with a side eye, people who are super squeaky clean, don't drink, smoke, or cuss. They barely sleep with their spouse, and when they do, it's missionary, and that's it. Model, upstanding, high citizen. You need to be very suspicious of people like that. And I'm only half kidding, guys. I'm only half joking. What I'm basically saying is that be real suspect of anyone who appears to be without flaw or sin. Does that make sense? Oh, we don't drink, we don't smoke, we don't curse, we don't listen to that rap music, that filth. We're in bed by 9 p.m. every single night. We're up by 6 a.m. because we don't believe in wasting time. We pay our taxes. We pay all of our bills. We give to charity. How dare you suggest we need therapy? How dare you suggest we're in need of therapy? Okay. So just be wary, because it's kind of like, trust me, I know that there are some people out there who are just like that. Like they're just straight as boards, squeaky clean. Like that's just who they are and what they are. It's just how they are. And that's fine. But, side eye. Let's go on to page 103. Permission to exist denied. This is the therapist talking to the parents again. So twice during this whole entire interview series, if you will, the therapist wanted to speak to Roger after he had spoken with the parents. And both times the parents didn't want him to. They're like, what do you need to talk to him for? He's a child. What do you need to talk to him for? You already talked to us, right? And I think Roger was 15? Another 15-year-old? He might have been 17. I can't quite remember. Let's see. Roger, da-da-da. Oh yeah, 15. Another 15-year-old. Okay. And so the therapist's response to the parents was, he's not a piece of furniture. He has a right to know what's going on. Right? And I think a lot of parents struggle with this, but I think a lot of the narcissistic parents had children for this very reason. They had children simply to have someone they could suppress. And legally so, for 18 years. For 18 years, you can legally suppress a person. legally, is especially if you're not hitting them and not, I'll have to say harming, because YouTube is very sensitive. If you're not harming them in any tangible way, then a court is going to be hard pressed to let you get emancipated or move out or, move somewhere else. And a lot of these kids, the only way they ever get out is by acting out and getting in trouble. And that's kind of like their cry for help and their cry for attention, right? But I believe a lot of the narcissistic parents really believe children are not real entities. They're not real people to them at all. Like, they have no real thoughts, no voice, really, truly. Like, it's almost like the spirit is, you're a child. You couldn't possibly have anything to say about this. You're a child. You haven't lived long enough to have an opinion on this or have an accurate opinion on this. Or, like the therapist said, they just kind of look at them like a piece of furniture that they have to feed occasionally. You see what I mean? Like, the realness of the person never registered with parents like these. The realness of the person never registers with narcissists, period. But especially with parents who I personally believe have children just to do this to them, just to have somebody to lord over. Because who better to lord over than your own seed? Yeah, you can lord over employees. You can even get into politics and run and win and lord over an entire city, state, or country. But what's better than having something that's made of you, since narcissists already think you're an extension of them, related or not. So what's better and what more of an extension of yourself than something that actually came out of you, one way or the other? I'm telling you, they have kids for this express purpose, just to deny people their permission to exist. It's like a personal ragdoll, really, that speaks occasionally. But the therapist told him he's not a piece of furniture. He does have a right to know what's going on, right? So, and that's not to say, oh, children need to be an adult's business. No, but this is his business because he's here because of him. They're seeing the therapist because of him, because of Roger, I mean. So it kind of is his business, but they didn't want the therapist to talk to him. And I personally think that's because they didn't want him to know what the therapist had recommended, so he wouldn't know what they were denying him. Because the therapist told them at first, I think you should probably send him to boarding school like he wants to go. They told him no. Then the second recommendation was to go to the referral to the other therapist. All that was discussed with the parents. They didn't want Roger to know that had been told to them, because then he would know what they were denying him. I hope that makes sense. It's almost like, let me give you a better example, something super simple. It's almost like if someone said to the parents, well, just give him the $50 so he can go on the field trip, right? And then the parents block him talking to the kid. So the kid never knows that the therapist sided with the kid. The kid never knows the therapist said, hey, why don't you just give him the $50 so he can go on the field trip? The kid will never know that he had an ally. That's what it is. They didn't want the therapist to talk to the son because they didn't want the son to know he had an ally. But the therapist won out ultimately, So anyway, you got to read the book to get the whole story. I don't want to butcher it further. Let's move on to our next quote. It says, okay, so this is in regard to the hidden demon. This is one of my first video concepts that was inspired by a subscriber, saying that narcissism is a hidden demon, and it is. And the quote itself is, one respect in which it is difficult to write about evil is its subtlety. So I know most of us know what subtlety and subtle means, but I decided to put it up here anyway. Subtle adjective, especially of a change or distinction so delicate or precise as to be difficult to analyze or describe. So, in other words, if you're not careful, you won't see it. Or if you're not careful, you won't catch it. You'll miss it. You'll miss it entirely. You see? If you don't know what you're looking for, you'll miss it. Very subtle, right? Kind of like if somebody changes the paint on their wall and you walk in the room and you go, did you change the paint color in here? They're like, oh my God, you noticed that? Like, yeah, it looks just a little bit brighter, just a little bit. You changed the paint? They're like, yeah, actually I did, but I just went one shade up. Wow. Can't believe you noticed that. And it is kind of shocking when people notice very subtle changes. Not in a bad way. It's not shocking in a bad way, but it's just surprising because so many people aren't paying attention to anything, honey, anything. They're barely paying attention to their own lives. So they're certainly not paying attention to anything else around them. So, think of subtle like that, like someone just changed a shade of white to just one shade up. And someone actually happened to notice, say, did you change the paint in here? Did you change the paint color? That's how evil is. Evil is just one shade up or just one shade down. It's usually not blatant and obvious. That's obvious evil. The evil we're talking about is just one shade up or one shade down to where if you're not paying attention, you won't notice it at all. You won't see it at all. Okay. So the author was saying it's tough to write about or probably even talk about evil because it's so subtle, and it is. It's very subtle. So this is page 104, and this is in regard to gauging evil. It says, it is exceedingly rare that we can pass judgment on a person as being evil after observing a single act. Instead, our judgment must be made on the basis of a whole pattern of acts, as well as their manner and style. So in other words, it's based on a pattern, and not just the pattern, but how the pattern is carried out, the way in which the pattern is carried out. Lots of people have little routines. Just because you have some sort of routine doesn't make you an evil psychopath. The routines that we're talking about are the routines that are related to how you deal with and treat and interact with other people. Those are the routines we're talking about, the patterns that we're talking about. We're not talking about you going to get your coffee every morning at that particular Starbucks. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when you take the whole person or the whole character, really, because really what character is, in my opinion, is the pattern. Character is the pattern that comes out with the person, not the one-time event. It's like, what is your pattern? You see? But not just the pattern. How is that pattern executed? You understand? Okay. So let's move on. And we've talked about that many times. That's how you can recognize them. They're very predictable, very consistent, and ultimately you'll start to pick up on the patterns. You will. You will. You'll start to see it. And then those of you who are still heavily entangled and deep in with narcissists right now, one way that you can emotionally separate yourself and disentangle yourself emotionally is to just start watching it like you're kind of watching a science experiment. Okay. So you just have to pretend like you're watching something highly combustible, but it's behind a shatterproof glass chamber. But you are on the other side of that chamber and you're just watching to see what it does. Then when it combusts in one direction, you whip out your handy dandy notepad and you take note, like Sunday, 9:20 p.m., raged and stormed out of the room. Noted. Close your notebook, put it away. Then the following day, tomorrow morning, you say 7:10 a.m., woke me up and asked me if I wanted toast. Knows I don't eat toast. Noted. Put it away. I'm telling you, you guys think I'm playing. I'm not. The moment you can separate yourself and step back and start to observe it like you're looking at a very contagious illness in a petri dish, just trying to see what it does for scientific purposes, you will start to get your power back, because that's when you first start to understand this really has nothing to do with me. Nothing. Nothing. It reacts to me. It's not me that's making it react. I know that sounds contradictory, but what I'm saying is it reacts. I can't. For example, if you ask it a direct question, it gets defensive, gets crazy, storms out of the room, starts to get all big and bad and scary. That's what I mean by it reacts to you. It's not reacting because of you. It's so hard to explain what I'm trying to say, right? So in other words, when you're being compliant and doormatty and, not speaking up for yourself and not really asserting your boundaries and being very flexible, they love you. They're very well behaved. That's what I mean by they're reacting to you. I guess it's so hard to explain what I'm trying to say. Anyway, don't take it personal is what I'm trying to say. Basically, it's just watching you to see what you do, and then it reacts like a mime or a mimic. Okay? Let's move on. This is page 104. It says, it's not that they disregarded Roger's feelings on a particular occasion. They did so at every possible opportunity. Oh my God. Oy. You want to talk about things adding up over time. Disregarding feelings. It's not that they disregarded feelings on a particular occasion. They did so at every possible opportunity. So when you're assessing someone who may or may not be evil or a narcissist in your life, what you're looking to see is, did they make a one-time mistake, or did they take every opportunity they can get to disregard me, diminish me, deplete me, disregard me, discard me? Do they do so at every opportunity they get? That's what's going to tell you who and what you're dealing with. We're not talking about people who made a mistake once, or who acted kind of selfish once and maybe didn't even apologize for it, but it only happened one time, very out of character for them, and they've never done it again. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people who take absolutely every opportunity they get to disregard your feelings. So that's what Roger was dealing with. I've certainly dealt with that on multiple levels all throughout my life, all throughout. And one of the ways that I even consider that, you guys, is the whole excessive talking, monopolizing conversation thing. I have come to consider that to be extremely rude and borderline abusive. And I'll tell you why. Because it's not like the person is excited and just telling you a story and they're excitable and just going and going and going and going because they just have to get it out. They have to tell you. It's that at every possible opportunity, they get you on the phone, or God forbid in person, they take that opportunity to basically dump on you. And you're not a therapist. Now, if you're the therapist and you don't like that, you need to get into another profession. We're talking about common relationships, friendships, family relationships, colleague. They don't regard you at all. They don't regard you as something that might also have something to say. They simply regard you as something to stand there or sit there or hold the phone and just listen without having any response whatsoever. That is so rude. It's a very disrespectful way to treat a person. And like, I even think about it like this. So here's a very powerful exercise that you can do for yourself. If you have trouble standing up for yourself or believing in your own boundaries, think about it like this. This will be very easy for those of you who actually have kids. If you don't have kids, you have to use your imagination. But if you actually have children, this should be easy for you. Pretend, and you have to make it whatever you are. So if you're a man, you have to make it your son. If you're a woman, you have to make it your daughter. Pretend you have so for me, a daughter. let's say I have an 8-year-old daughter and she just made a new friend at school. And the new friend calls the house to talk to my daughter. Sure, okay. Hey, daughter, phone, And I walk by my daughter's room and my daughter is quiet, but I can hear someone talking on the phone. And I'm like, dang, her little friend is chatty. I go downstairs, fiddle around downstairs, come past by my daughter's room 30 minutes later. She's still sitting there quiet on the edge of her bed, just holding the phone. And the other person. So the second time I pass by, I'm going to, knock on her door and be like, are you on the phone still? And she'll look at me and shake her head like, okay. I'll walk away and go fiddle faddle in the kitchen for 15 minutes. If I come back a third time, my daughter is still just sitting there, just listening to this other little girl. Mommy's picking up the phone. Hello, Shirley. Yes, Shirley. She's got to go. No. She's got to go. Okay. Oh, okay. Good night. Bye-bye. Click. Now, the child may not understand why I did that. She might be like, Mom, that's my friend. Why would you do that? And I would say to my child, you have conversations with people. You don't sit there and just let somebody talk your ear off and you never get to speak. What was she talking about? Oh, she was just telling me about this boy that she likes and had a crush on, and he sent her a message on Instagram and blah. I'm like, okay, did you have an opinion about that? Did you have questions, thoughts, anything to say? Well, yeah, but I mean, she just wanted to tell her story. I'm like, she told her story for an hour and a half, and I didn't hear one word come out of you. Don't you dare sit there and let somebody just talk your ear off as if you are just a trash can that receives words with nothing. No. So my point in that example is I would not allow another child to do that to my child. I would monitor for that, because I don't want my child to become a doormat. I don't want my child to get used to constantly not receiving. Well, technically she'd be giving her time and giving her ear. But what I mean is taking in, and never ever gets to return it. Well, let me tell you about my day. Let me tell you about the little boy I have a crush on. Let me tell you what happened in third period. You know what I mean? Like, she never gets to be her person. She only has to be a person for you. Absolutely not. Mama's shutting it down. So if mama would shut it down for her child, you need to start developing that same sense of protection toward yourself. Look at yourself as your child and ask yourself, why are people allowed to do that to you, your child, you? Why are they allowed to do that to you when you wouldn't let them do that to your kid? It's powerful, you guys. I'm telling you, start viewing yourself as your own little person and ask yourself, would you allow an 8-year-old to talk your 8-year-old's ear off and treat her like she's not there? Treat her like she's a statue or a mirror that's just standing there, just parroting and shaking her head? No, get off the phone. Don't call her anymore either. Let's move on. This is on page 104. It says their lack of concern for him as a person was utterly consistent. God darn it. Their lack of concern for him as a person was utterly consistent. In other words, you may not be consistent in anything else, but your lack of concern for him is consistent across the board. Perfect tens. Perfect tens when it comes to a disregard for this boy. Perfect tens across the board, very consistent. So we've talked about that consistency so much before. So I just thought it was very interesting to see the word in the book. And like I've said before, PTE 1983, I was sending those vibes to Dr. Peck, like Dr. Peck. Tell him about the consistency, Dr. Peck. I'll be there in about 20 years. Wait, no. God, y'all know I can't do math. 83, 93, 30 years. I think. I don't know. Peck, I'll be there in about 20 to 30 years, okay? To back up all your points, but I need you to tell them about the consistency, okay? Their lack of concern for him as a person was utterly consistent. You're not good at anything else other than being mean, rude, and nasty. This is page 105. It says, but the fact is that they were not insensitive people. Highly intelligent, they were finely tuned to social nuances. And I think I made myself a note. I sure did. Look at me remembering before I even have my cue. So what I wanted to read was this part. It says, highly intelligent, they were finely tuned to social nuances. We are not talking of poor dirt farmers in Appalachia, but of well-educated, gracious, politically sophisticated couple, quite adept in the committee and at the cocktail party. So socialites. They could not have been who they were had they lacked sensitivity. Mr. R would not make an unconsidered legal decision, and Mrs. R would always remember to send flowers on the right occasion. But Roger, they would not remember or consider. The fact is that their insensitivity toward him was selective. Conscious or unconscious, it was a choice. And I could not agree with that little paragraph more. In other words, the reason you've been able to climb so high in these little social circles is because you're very sensitive to social norms and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Sorry, that was the sound of my straw in my cup. You're very sensitive to what's acceptable and unacceptable because you will certainly play the role to make sure you're accepted in these little social circles because they're all the same types of people. And there's certain spoken rules and certain unspoken rules, and they abide by them all to make sure they're accepted. So they know how to act, basically. They know how to act. They know how to act. But when it comes to Roger, somehow suddenly they just don't know what to do. Or as, what's his name? Billy? What was the baby's name from a couple chapters ago? Y'all know who I'm talking about. His parents, you know, their excuse was, oh, we're not educated like you. We don't know all this family stuff and how to raise people. We haven't read all those books. We're not smart like you are. You have to tell us how to do this, right? But know how to do everything else. Know how to go to church, know how to pay taxes, know how to go to work, know how to do everything else. But when it comes to treating you right, oh, suddenly I'm blanking out. I need help. I don't understand. I don't understand. So that could be a nice snappy comeback for your narcissist. If they're like, oh, you make no sense. I don't understand. You could be like, you understand that golf game. Or if it's a lady you're dealing with, be like, you understand your makeup. You understand how to do certain, you understand how to shop. You certainly know how to shop. You understand a lot of things. But when it comes to me, suddenly you're blanking out. Why is that? Why is that? Why is it you're super smart, have a super high paying job, high up in the company, get to make so many big, important decisions that affect so many lives? Let's detour there really quick. These are the same types of people sitting in high positions, making decisions about everybody else's life, you guys. Keep that in mind. So that's part of what we're up against. I know we focus a lot on the different political parties, but really what you have to see is the mindset that is driving all of this. And this is the mindset. The mindset is we know how to act when it comes to our political cronies and, you know, the people we deem important. But if you're not one of those people, we really don't care what happens to you. We have selective empathy. We have a selective conscience. We can turn it off and on. We know how to treat our friends and be gifting and generous to our friends and friends with money and, you know, different political cronies. But when it comes to the people who we're actually affecting with our decisions, oh, we don't care. And we'll just pretend that we don't know. And we'll launch a task force to study the phenomenon to see if we can figure out how to make things right. But you know how to make things right in every other area. Y'all don't get me started, okay? Basically, the point of this and the point of that blurb is that you know how to send flowers. You know how to argue and deliberate in court, Mr. and Mrs. R. But when it comes to Roger, suddenly you don't know how to parent. Why is that? This is on page 105. It says, there is, I suspect, something basically incomprehensible about evil. It's a mystery. And if I'm not mistaken, I think even the Bible calls it a mystery. Let me see. I just want to see that really quick. Let me just see if that's in my imagination or let's see, Mystery of Evil Bible. Is that something I made up in my head? Let me see here. Excuse me. It's not helpful. Blah, blah, blah. I swear I feel like it's actually in the Bible. Maybe not. Maybe that's in my brain. Did I make that up? Mystery of Iniquity. Is that what it is? Hold on. Let's see. Thank you for that in the super chat. Not super chat. Sorry, in the chat. Mystery of Iniquity Bible. I need the verse. Let me see here. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Y'all, I feel like I have a perfect working knowledge of the Bible. Like it's all in my brain. I just can't access it 90% of the time, which is awful. 2 Thessalonians 2:7. This is the King James Version. It says, "For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way." I have such a big theory behind that, y'all, but I can't. All right. So yes, it is definitely in the Bible. It's a mystery. And if you tuned into my other channel, which is called A Deeper PTE, go check it out and subscribe. We discussed this in the last video I did called God Being a Woman Changes Everything, right? And I know that sends people into a spiral. But when you hear my theory behind it, you'll understand why I think it's possible. But we're not here to discuss God being a man or a woman. What I'm saying is the theory basically behind that in that video is that this was all a surprise to God. This came up as a surprise. And I know that that goes against common traditional knowledge, which says that God is all knowing and omniscient, right? Knows the beginning from the end, knows the past, present, and the future. But I'm telling you guys, I think we're misinterpreting that. And I think this was a surprise to God because you would have to wonder why God would create evil on purpose. And I know it says for the day of judgment, evil was created for the day of the Lord or something like that. But I struggle with that one, you guys. It makes no sense for you to design a perfect system, perfect, and then purposely put something in it to mess everything up. Why would you do that? It makes no sense. So I really believe evil was a surprise. And essentially everything that has taken place since then is God correcting this mystery that popped up out of nowhere, like a weed in your garden that popped up, and not a good weed, like a bad weed that pops up and you just can't figure out where it's coming from or how to get rid of it. So God has spent a lot of time over these past couple of centuries designing the end of all of this, planning the end of it, because if evil is a mystery, that means it might also be kind of hard to understand, kind of. Don't get me started. That's all for a deeper PTE, okay? I might follow up on this concept and rabbit hole over there soon. Soon and very soon, okay? So let us continue. Another note about the consistency. It says here again, we see the striking consistency. He was talking about how consistently the parents kept lying. Okay. Is that 105 too? Yep. Or is that a different page? It was saying how she lied 3 times. She lied 3 times in like one short sentence. Okay. This is page 106. It says the pretense chosen by evil is most commonly the pretense of love. And that one spooked me and kind of creeped me out a little bit. Like of all the different faces they could put on, they choose to put on the loving face. That scares me. Part of the reason I won't get married. It terrifies me. I am so afraid that I won't be able to see through the mask in time. But part of my screening process is just watching your consistency over time, because one thing I will say is that they can't keep it up. They can't keep up the act long term because it's not natural to them. It's not their first language. So love and being loving and compassionate and kind is an act. So just like an actor or an actress goes to work and puts on this persona for work, for the movie, for the TV show. But when they leave, they are completely not that person, to the point that they get aggravated when people approach them on the street calling them their character's name. They're like, that's not me. You do understand that, right? And they're like, yes, it is. Yes, you are. And I'm so angry with you for what you did to Samantha or whoever, right? And they're like, I didn't do anything to Samantha. We're actually really good friends in real life. That's a movie. That's TV. But they can be so convincing that people confuse them with their pretense. So it's the same thing, right? People who are putting on pretenses of love or compassion or concern cannot keep it up long term. They have to take a break. Like an actor or actress cannot stay in character all the time. And I think when they do, they've actually lost their minds. I think there's documented cases of that, where an actor or an actress actually started to believe they were that person. So same thing. That's not going to happen with a narcissist, though. They're not going to be so loving and so compassionate and caring that they start to identify with those features. They're not. I promise you they're not. I can guarantee it. Okay? I guarantee it. So it slips. And this is what we talk about, the mask slipping. It slips with them. Okay? And so that's what I watch for. Like, how long can they keep it up before this little mask slips off? Okay. Now, a genuine person, their mask will never slip. The problem is it would take about 4 to 5 years for a person to prove that to me. And that's so unfair, y'all. That's so unfair that it would take that long for a person to prove to me, like 4 to 5 years, but that's where I'm at. The things that I've been through, the things that I've experienced and seen, both personally, but also what I've witnessed happen to other people, we're at 4 to 5 years before I actually start trusting a person. And that's so sad, but that's what it is. And what I found is the narcs tend to drop off around like the 3-month mark. So it's very effective. I know it's a long period of time, but it's effective as hell. Page 106. First, there is the matter of the degree to which they were willing to sacrifice Roger for the preservation of their narcissistic self-image. So, what was he saying that about? Oh, he was basically just trying to pinpoint, or he was trying to explain why he believed Roger's parents were evil. So this was the first reason he gave. He said, first, there's the matter of the degree to which they were willing to sacrifice Roger for the preservation of their narcissistic self-image. So in other words, to make themselves look good and blameless and clean, they were willing to throw Roger right under the bus. Didn't care. So that was the first thing that told the therapist that these people might be evil. Okay. Then here's the quote I was looking for. Then the mom lied 3 times in like a short sentence. And I'm not going to get into what they were and how they were lies. You'll have to read the book for that. But this is what he said in regard to that. He said, not 1 lie, not even 2 lies, but 3 lies, all twisted around each other in a single short sentence. It is, I suppose, a form of genius that one can almost admire for its perversity. So narcs have admirable traits. And one of the things that is most impressive about these people is their ability to lie on demand, on the spot, and not only on demand and on the spot, their ability to mix, mingle, and craft a lie that is so intense and so deep that you would actually have to spend about an hour undoing it. And that's what they want. They want you to spend an hour untangling all those lies they just threw at you. And while you're busy trying to untangle that first ball, they're working on the second ball of lies. That's why I say you shouldn't really deal with them at all if you can. But I recognize a lot of you are in situations where you have to deal with these people. I get that. But they're so talented at this. It's unbelievable. They can take anything, twist it, incorporate 2 other lies, a sprinkle of truth, and then throw that at you and expect you to be able to respond to it. So if you are in the mood to play ball, while you're busy undoing them all, they're interrupting you, talking over you, getting loud, or leaving the room. Yes, they are. It says they are truly demon spirits. They really are. Okay. But it is impressive. I will never take that away from them. The ability to do that is 100% impressive because it appears to come from within. So not much comes from the narc in terms of naturally originating from the narcissist. But one thing that does come from them is the ability to just lie on the spot, mix in a slight tinge of truth, and then kick that at you and expect you to catch it and deal with it and work with it. That's why taking notes is so important with these people, because you have to be able to keep up with all that. You have to be able to remember what they said. Because see, I'm the kind of jerk to narcissists where I have time. I have time and I'm in the mood most of the time. So I'm like, all right, you've made 13 different points here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and start with point number 1. Then I'm actually going to jump to point number 4 because 1 and 4 are connected. Then I'm going to circle back to 2, 3, go on to 5. Like I'll play with them. Like I feel like I am such a jerk to narcissists, and we need a word for that type of person. The person who loves nothing more than making these people's heads pop off, because that's all they ever want to do to us. They want to terrorize us. So I enjoy giving them a taste of their own medicine, which is probably why Fun with Your Narcissist is my most popular video on this channel. I love it, you guys. And part of the reason I love it is because I know that they do this to other people who don't have quite as much fearlessness in regard to them. You know, they'll back down, they'll stand down, they'll get walked over, they'll take it. You know what I mean? So part of me giving it back to them is giving it back to them for everybody they've ever done that to. I love it. Oh, it's so much fun for me. Finally, this is page 107, and this is actually going to end this particular episode. We'll go into after show, of course. But if you ever find yourself confused in regard to your upbringing, your rearing, your parents, if you're not sure, this is highly likely the case. It says, as far as I could tell, they were both evil. Both of them. So it's just something to think about. If you struggle with that, like you can't tell, is my mom evil and my dad is the victim, or is my dad evil and my mom's the victim? Honey, chances are they're both evil. They deserve each other. Now, that's not to say that we don't have situations where one parent is indeed evil and the other one is indeed not. Of course, that happens all the time. But if they've been together 10, 20, 15 years, 30, honey, chances are you're dealing with 2 peas in a pod. It's just something to think about. I'm not saying that is the case. I'm just saying you probably are dealing with 2 peas in a pod. Okay. And with that, you guys, we are going to wrap episode 5 of our People of the Lie review series. I hope you guys have been enjoying it so far. We are going to go into after show. So let me get set up on my side. Welcome to everybody in the chat. It's good to see you again. I know it's been a little while. I swear I just move. I have like these creative moods. Like it just comes on me and then it goes away. It comes on me and it goes away. And I would be so much more successful as a creator if I could be a little bit more consistent. But guys, I don't like to force content. I don't. So if it's not naturally coming out of me from a natural place, like if I'm not passionate about it, I don't like to do it, because then I feel like I'm just pulling at straws. And I want this to come from deep within the well. And this one tonight did. So with that, you guys, we are going to take ourselves a little commercial break. Let me get all set up here. Give me just a few minutes. I'm going to walk with this little puppy and I'll be back. Okay. Thanks. And we'll go into after show. Here we go.
right, you guys, we are back. Welcome to the after show. Thank you for hanging in with me. I appreciate it. Let me pop my screen up here. I am very curious to see what you guys had to say about this one. Welcome, everybody. As you may know, I just scrolled to the top of the chat as far as I can go. It does cut off, and I just kind of pluck out really good comments. They're all good, but I just pluck out a few that stand out, and then we wrap up. And generally, we find very entertaining conversations in the after show. So welcome, everybody. Whew. Yeah, this one, it's like of all the things that we've read so far, this one so far has really kind of disturbed me the most. It says the pretense, the mask slips off. It's a glimpse of the grotesque. Yes. And that same grotesque is what makes us revolted, or it should anyway. If your radar system is intact, it should revolt you. It should. Let's see. It says, I know this is off topic, but your voice is so soothing. Do you sing? Can you host some kind of sleep meditation? So y'all are going to laugh at this. Probably last year, I actually went to Barnes and Noble and bought 2 fairy tale books that I have somewhere around here. And I was going to do an ASMR bedtime story channel. And I even tried it. Like I started a couple of videos, but what stopped me was like the visuals. Like I couldn't get really good visuals going, I guess. Like, I don't know if that should be like one still picture, if it should be like a video that's slowly moving. Like I got hung up on the visuals of it all. And I'm such a goofball that I could barely read the story without laughing, man. The first one I did was called The Frog King. So some of you might be familiar with that fairy tale. But as I was reading it, I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. So I'm like making little commentary. And I'm like, they're not here for the commentary. They want the bedtime story. So I don't know. We'll see. But can I sing, or do I sing? Yes, I do. And one day I'm going to sing for you guys because not obviously, I was going to say, honestly, it's one of my favorite things to do. And it's something I've been working on for a very long time, like since I was a little girl. No formal training, although music is kind of in my blood in many ways, but no formal like vocal training. So I've been kind of training myself, and I feel like I finally got it. For those of you who sing or like to sing, who feel like you're not quite there, there's a certain release that has to happen. Like there's a certain like a blockage you have to get past. It's so hard to explain. It's like a wall. And once you get past that wall, oh my gosh, the way it flows out, it's incredible. But there's a wall. It's not mental either. It's something internal that has to release in you. And once you get past it, oh man, it's something else. So we'll see. We shall see. So many things I want to do. I feel like I don't have enough time. I feel like if I lived to be 200 years old, I wouldn't have enough time to accomplish everything I want to accomplish. Excuse me. All right. Right. It says true love is not meant for a season. Exactly. When you really love something, you never stop loving it. Never. So that's a great way to know if you really love or really loved something. You never stop. Like love doesn't just end. You know what I mean? So if someone's able to just end their love for you, they never really did. I promise you they didn't. You can't. It never goes away. Once you love them, you love them. That's it. Let's see here. Yes, the 3-month mark is approximately when most narcs drop off. They can't keep it up. They can't be consistent. Another way I like to get rid of narcissists or potential narcs is just hold them to something that they promised, or something like their word or something. So I'll just give a random example. Let's say they, on Monday, invite you to a concert on Friday, and they say they'll get you the tickets by Wednesday, right? So Wednesday comes and goes, you have no tickets. So you contact them on Thursday and you're like, hey, are you going to send me those tickets? You know, I'd love to go to that concert. And then they, him and ha, you got a narc on your hands. Hold them accountable. If they say they're going to do something, or, you know,
Take them up on it. And I promise you 99% of the time it won't happen. So if you want to get out of plans with a narcissist, it has to be their idea and you have to agree to it. 99% of the time they'll cancel it because they want the resistance. It's the resistance that they want. They don't want your compliance all the time. Sometimes, yes, but generally they kind of want you to not want to do it. That's what makes it fun for them. Like, I got her out here anyway, and she doesn't even want to be here. These people are unwell. Let's see here. Oh, yes. It says narcs will show themselves long before the 4 to 5 years. Long before. You don't even have to wait that long. And that's what makes me laugh. Because I'm like, PTE, why 4 to 5 years? You know they're not going to make it past 3 months. And I'm like, because, man, I need to see that consistent behavior over and over and over again. I need to see it long term. And the way I view that is because I'm going to be giving you consistent behavior for the next 4 to 5 years. Consistent. Like, to me, it's not an issue. Like, I wouldn't even think about how can I be consistent for the next 4 to 5 years? I don't have to think about it because I'm consistent. Are you? So I think it's hilarious. 4 to 5 years is the marker when I start to trust people. So there's people in my life who are still within that 4 to 5 year window who just don't realize, I still don't trust you, honey. I don't trust you. I don't know you. I've known you for 3 years. I don't know you. Oh, gosh. All right, let's keep going. It says human sacrifice for their false god themselves. I added in the word themselves for those listening. The quote says human sacrifice for their false god, and that false god is themselves. They are their own god, and that creates so many problems. So many. Like, even if they worshiped a tree, it would be better for them to worship a tree than worship themselves, because at least they bow to the tree. At least they submit to something greater than them. So even if they worship a mighty oak, maybe that oak can keep them in line. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that oak speaks to them and keeps them like humble and in check. Fine, whatever works. But when they worship nothing above themselves, that's a problem. All right. Yes, indeed. It says you really have to master self in order to steer clear of them. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. The greatest challenge and struggle you'll ever have is conquering yourself. Because once you conquer yourself, honestly, you can face anything. But I promise you, you are your own best friend and your worst enemy. Yes, I know that's cliche, but it's so true. It's true. You are your greatest ally and the worst thing that could ever happen to yourself at the same time. So learn to be your greatest ally more often than the worst thing that ever happened to yourself. Don't be the worst thing that ever happened to yourself, okay? Right. Just scrolling. Your comment, absolutely. It says narcs talk over you and over you. That's their weapon. Yep. So like most debates, like on YouTube, I can't watch because that's all that's happening is two people talking over each other. One trying to dominate, one starts losing. So they start interrupting, over talking. I can't stand it. It drives me crazy. Drives me crazy because what they're trying to do is avert the truth. Because if you keep having an honest conversation, again, eventually you're going to make your way to the truth. And that's what they're trying to duck and dodge. Ooh, it says they lie constantly so they can lie perfectly with the biggest lies. Right. Wow. So the little lies are just practice. Yikes. Let's see here. You know what I've been doing lately? It says, I know one that likes to stand in front of me when he spoke and talk over me. What I've been doing lately on the phone, obviously, or maybe not obviously, it could have been in person, but it's been over the phone, is some of the chronic narcs in my life who do this. Narcs that they're not going anywhere, honey. Okay. In the past, when they cut me off and start talking over me, I'd just stop talking and be like, whatever, who cares? You'll just never know me. And to me, that's one of the most tragic losses of the whole narc equation. True relationship is lost. And it's like, wow, you don't know me at all. And it's not that I'm hiding myself from you. It's that you so will not allow me to enter into the chat in any way, size, shape, or form, that you actually don't know me at all. You have no clue who I actually am. But they don't care. They don't care that they don't really know you. They have an idea of you, and that idea of you is good enough for them. But I digress. Lately, when I've been on the phone with a narc and they start up that over talking mess, I just keep talking right over them and finish my sentence. And you can tell it catches them off guard. And what the craziest, weirdest thing to me is that they actually will sit there and fight you for it. So like, let me think of a simple sentence. Actually, let me just read something. I'll read something out of the book. Let's just pick a random page. Page 109. So the full sentence is, I looked at Sarah, a thin, angular woman, smaller than her husband, yet seemingly considerably larger. So that's the full sentence. So this is me trying to talk to the narc. Yeah, so I looked at Sarah, a thin, angular woman, smaller than her. Now here's where the narc would come in. Oh, Sarah, blah, 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 smaller than her husband, yet seemingly. Yeah, I know Sarah. I've heard of Sarah. And I'm like literally two people like getting super loud on the phone for no reason. Like, wow, you're really trying to talk over me right now. You really are trying to interrupt. And when you hear me getting louder so I can finish my sentence, you're trying to get louder. You're a psychopath. God, you're a psychopath. It's like, she's trying to finish her sentence. So let me try to talk a little bit louder so she'll let me. No. Lately, I've been chopping narc heads off and it has not been pretty. I've been on a war path lately. So sometimes when y'all don't hear from me for a couple weeks, I've been on a war path, just lopping heads off, left and right. Because I can't take it anymore, you guys. Like, I just can't. It's just so old. Like, you're still doing this after all this time. This is still who you are. So let me stop being who I've been all this time. Quiet, compliant, just listen, just take it, just whatever. It'll be over in 30 minutes. Nope. I have a sentence to make, and I'm going to make my entire sentence, whether you like it or not. And you can talk over me. You can try to talk louder. And then I'm just going to try to talk louder until I win because I was speaking first. When it's your turn to speak, I don't talk over you. So when it's my turn to speak, you don't talk over me. And once again, we go back to that child, that little girl. If this was my daughter and I watched her trying to talk to her friend and her friend kept interrupting her, talking over her, if we're all in the same room, I'd be like, hey, Kelly, could you let my daughter finish her sentence from time to time? You think you can do that? That's good communication, right? But if we're on the phone, I'm going to grab the phone and say, hi, Kelly, this is, I don't know what I'll call my daughter, baby PTE's mom. She's trying to tell you a story. Could you let her tell it, please? And I'll give the phone back and give my daughter a chance to tell the story. And if she gets to cutting her off again, phone call's over. Done. You're not going to do that to my child. So if I feel that strongly about a child that doesn't even exist, I need to feel that strongly about myself as well. I mean that. I'm so serious. Yes. I know it might seem mean, y'all, but you have to bully the bully. And there are so many people who are against that. I don't know who you are, but you're a horrible person. These people have mental illnesses and you're making fun of them. And I usually write back, I'm not making fun of them. They're making fun of themselves. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's all right for them to wreak absolute havoc and damage and destruction and actually trigger depression in people and cause depression in people. It's okay for them to do all of that. But as soon as I start to give them just a little bit of their own medicine back, I'm a bad person, go to hell and go join them too. Go with them. All of you go to hell. I don't care. And that has been my position from day one. Like, we're not talking about people who are incapacitated here. We're not talking about actual people who could be, they could be institutionalized. What I mean is people who can't function. They can't hold jobs. They can't drive cars. They can't live on their own because they're that mentally incapacitated. They're not incapacitated. These people are perfectly fine and healthy. They just have a satanic operating system. You know how you have different operating systems in your computers? Yeah, they just have a demonic operating system. I mean, that's really all there is to it. Let's see. Oh, yeah. And it feels so good. It says, I'm learning to just be straightforward with them. It feels so good, y'all. Because as much as they're putting up a pretense, we are too when we take it and when we don't speak up for ourselves and when we don't kick it straight. We're putting up a pretense too, and it's exhausting. So when you just drop it all and just, I'm telling y'all, I don't know what it is. I still have to do this video. When you check a narcissist, yeah, sometimes it can go really bad, but I'm telling you, a lot of times they heal. Heal, puppy, heal. Heal, pup. It's like they have to fear you. I don't know what it is. You have to make them fear you, man. And again, I don't recommend that because a lot of narcissists are actually dangerous. They've just never had an opportunity to display it physically. So I do not recommend that. But you have to understand, I don't care. I'm not scared of these people. So, you know, in the past, it was more so of a confusion, like, well, what's going on? Is there something I'm doing? What's wrong with me? You know, why can't I make this work? When I finally realize what I'm dealing with, all the fear is gone. I'm just weighing whether or not it's worth it. Like, is this even worth it? Sometimes it is, and I love it. Let's see. It is like judo. Yes. So speaking of judo, so you guys know I have this little puppy and she loves to fight. And it's so cute and funny because she is relentless and persistent, honey. Like when I get on the floor, anytime I get on the floor, it's fight time, right? And she just comes charging at me full speed, right? God, it's so cute. And what I like to do is I'll close my eyes and just get a sense for where she is and where she's going. And I'll be like, you must fight. What do I say? I call it jujitsu. I say, I am one with the jujitsu. I fight you with the jujitsu. I shadow box you. Like, it's so funny. I know it sounds insane and it probably looks the same as well. But it's funny because that's really what I'm doing. Like, I close my eyes and I'm just trying to predict where she's going next and block her. Because what she wants to do, she wants my face, basically. She wants to come in full steam ahead at my face and like nip at my nose. She wants to lick my, and like, y'all, sorry, but I don't do the whole dog licking in the mouth thing. I'm not into it. Very cute, very sweet, but I'm not into it. But that's what she wants. She wants to lick my mouth. So when we're fighting, essentially what I'm doing is blocking her from trying to eat me. Okay. And I'll be like, I am one with the jujitsu. I shadow box you. It's so funny. And I'm pretty successful, but she actually wins a lot because she's so little. So she takes advantage of my vulnerabilities. Like if I'm on my elbows, she'll slide up under my arm. She's a psycho. She will find any pocket to get to my face. It's amazing. I'm like, how do you even have the mindset to look for an opening to get to my face? It's so funny and cute. So funny and cute. Let's see here. Absolutely. It says people need to be more willing to call out evil when they witness it. Absolutely. Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, we need to be able to. Without shame, because keep in mind, they're shameless. They have no shame. So I made a tweet earlier on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Exist Permission, where I said that it's tough to confront a narcissist because they're already engaging in unreasonable behavior. So if someone is already being unreasonable, You already know that they're not going to respond well to whatever criticism or feedback you have because they're already doing something unreasonable. Do you see what I mean? It's not like you're trying to bring something up to someone who's doing something reasonable. Does that make sense? You know, because you would probably just know, well, this is a reasonable person, so I could probably talk to them. But the narc is already engaging in unreasonable behavior and almost basically kind of looking at you like, yeah, try it. Say something. Say something to me about this unreasonable behavior I'm engaging in. Say something. I dare you. So yeah, take them up on their dare. Call their bluff. All right, let's see here. Oh, this makes me feel better. It says PTE, that sounds like you are a real artist. No creator creates consistently, my opinion. That actually makes me feel so much better. That makes me feel so much better, honestly. Kwanzi, thank you. Thank you for that. Because I feel horrible when I don't bring you guys content on a regular basis. I feel awful. But I can't force it. I really can't. Like, it's a disservice to force it. Trust me. And I think that you guys can probably even see that as you all make your way around YouTube. I think you can probably tell the creators who are forcing it just to have videos coming out constantly versus the creators who really put it out when they're moved. And I'm just one of those. I put it out when I'm moved, but that does not translate well in terms of monetization. God, these people pay me as if my channel is brand new, y'all. It's so sad. It's sad. Like, it's pathetic. At this point, honestly, I should be able to survive off of my YouTube ad revenue. I should be able to. But literally, I get paid as if this channel is brand new. And one day I'll tell you all the numbers. One day. It's nothing spectacular. I'll put it to you like this. Since what year are we in? 2020? 19. God, I'm so confused on my years. My revenue started dropping in 2019. July of 2019, my revenue started going down, down, down. And now I make less than $1,000 a month on YouTube. I'll put it to you like that. Far less than 1,000 a month. And I should be well over 1,000. 1,000 should be standard. I'm so serious. And at one point I was making a little bit over 1,000 a month. And then literally they pulled the cord on me, y'all. They cut me off. They stopped promoting my videos. They stopped notifying my subscribers that I was putting out content still. But more than that, they cut my money off, man. And it hurt so bad. It still hurts. And I'm still pissed off about it. But lucky for them, I'm more passionate about this than I am about that check they cut each month. Lucky for them. Because if this wasn't a passion, there's just no way. Anyway, don't get me started on that. I was thinking about doing a whole video on that for anyone who's actually interested, or for any other content creators, just to compare notes to see if anyone else is going through this. Let's see. Wow. It says PTE, you made me understand why my mother was so weird. I wonder what you mean. Like weird in the evil sense, or weird in the sense of like protecting you? Like how we were talking about children earlier. I'd love to know what you meant. But I'm glad I helped you understand it either way. Let's see. It says, how do you spot a narc in a short period of time? My number one recommendation is to watch their communication habits, because that's the first time they show you whether or not they value you as a person. But if the communication habits don't quite do it, I found that most narcissists are extremely pushy. They're exceptionally pushy people. So they constantly are trying to push you into something. Excuse me. Be that a sale, a relationship, an encounter of an adult nature, do something, go here. They're very, very pushy. They don't really take no for an answer very well. So those are going to be some of your early warning signs. And I think I have a video called Narcissistic Red Flags, 10 Early Signs to Watch Out For, or something like that. I think I have that video. I'll go look it up and link it in the description once we're done. Because once you're able to start recognizing them, you'll see them everywhere. Let's see. I'm starting to get congested and I'm not sick. It just gets all tangled up in here when I talk too much. Let's see. Like, why can't this happen to narcs? Why don't narcs get congested when they talk a lot? To kind of jam them up and shut them up. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to try so hard to be more 20. So here's a game plan. It's not set in stone, but here's what I'm thinking about doing. I'm thinking about December. I've done this before, but I didn't execute on it the way I wanted to. But I'm thinking of December of this year, taking December off, meaning no content, no live streams, no videos, nothing. And I want to front load my content, meaning I want to record a bunch of videos, edit them, and basically have them set up to release in the future. So like one every couple of days in the future to give me a head start. So basically come January, you'd be watching videos in January that I actually made in December. And my intent and goal is to have work done already so I can just focus like on live streams, knowing that videos are still coming out behind the scenes, and then eventually get it to where I'm preloaded by like 3 or 4 months. So I can steadily be working on content, knowing the videos are rolling out. That's a lofty goal. That requires a lot of free time. But it's something I've always wanted to try to keep you guys well supplied, you know? But for those of you who might be new, we do have a playlist called PTE videos in order from the beginning. And literally that's what it is. It's each of my videos in order from the beginning. And if you want to just kind of binge watch and catch up to where we are today, how we've arrived to where we are today, you can do that with that playlist. And I'll link that for you as well. Hey, AL. It says that's why text dialogue is the best way to hand their own asses to them multiple times consecutively, assassinate them with their own words, invigorating like nothing else. Yes, it is. It's fantastic. It's like, oh no, please allow me to show you the screenshot. Please allow me to show you the screenshot of what you actually said. Yeah. It says, oh my God, this bit, you don't know me at all. Ooh, shivers. My close friend for over 2 decades didn't seem to get me. So I would like to speak on this really quick. It does send shivers, right? I was like, it's possible that someday, you know, this whole thing we got going over here, permission to exist, the channel, this could become something. It could get picked up, you know, it could get like a deal like Joe Rogan got with Spotify. It could become a TV talk show. It could become anything, really. And if that were to happen, I would estimate 99% of the people in my life, it would come as a complete shock, surprise, and not in a good way either. Not like, oh my gosh, we're so happy for you. We're so proud of you. It would be like, who are you? Right? And here's the thing. In fairness, I've never told any, I think I told 1 or 2. One person found me and the other one I just flat out told. So only like 1 or 2 people actually know, but no one else really knows. I've never posted it on my social media. I don't tell my friends and family about it. I don't talk about it. So this is like a whole secret life I'm leading over here. But here's the point, though. The point is, if and when that were to happen and they were like, oh my God, how could you hide this from us? Who are you? Blah, blah, blah. My answer to them would be, this is who I've been the whole entire time. You did not care to know me. You didn't care to know me. You didn't want to know me. These are the things that I've always wanted to talk about. These are the things that I have written about, like in my little journals, on my little computer. I've always wanted to talk about these topics. Like, it's not that I've never tried to broach these topics with people, but I found that when I try to broach topics like these with the majority of the people in my life, they're not interested, you guys. They're 100% disinterested. And not even just the topic of narcissism, anything that requires a level of thought or analysis or, problem solving or critical thinking or anything. They've never wanted to go here with me. Never. They're not interested. Most of the people in my life talk at me. So I spend the majority of my time with the people in my life just listening, usually to nonstop BS, but listening nonetheless. They don't know me, you guys. So if this were to turn into something big, it would take them all by surprise and they would be very shocked because they've never seen this side of me before, but they've never wanted to see this side of me. I've offered her many times. I've offered her up on multiple different occasions. They reject this side of me. This side of me is completely, fundamentally rejected by the people in my life. They're not interested in this level or this layer of me. So if it ever became so public that I wouldn't be able to hide it from them anymore, it would take them all by complete surprise. They would have to just sit there with their mouths wide open in complete and total shock. Like, I had no idea that's who she was. I had no idea she had that much in her. I had no idea she had that much to say. Yeah, I bet you didn't. You never shut up. You never shut up. So of course you don't know. And I'm not the type to wrestle. Like, go ahead, talk until you get exhausted. I'll clean up my kitchen while you run your mouth. You see? So I say all that in response to this quote, oh my God, this bit, they don't know me at all. They don't. They're going to find out. God, that'll be a funny day. Because I plan on just telling them all at once, all at the same time, like, hey guys, what's up? I need you to quiet down for 30 seconds. Do you think you can do that? Can you all be quiet for 30 seconds? You think you can do that? Fantastic. Listen, something really big is taking place. Been working on this little thing called Permission to Exist on YouTube. A couple of years now in the background. Fill in the blank picked it up. So yeah, it's nationally syndicated and you guys are going to see me quite frequently all over the place. And I thought I'd tell you here first. What questions do you have? And just watch their jaws like, she made something of herself? All that hard work we did to suppress this girl and she actually made something of herself? How dare she? How dare she? We worked so hard to chop her roots. Let's see here. Let's take a few more of these and we're going to get out of here. It says PTE with a large feather in her hair, warpath dance. I'm telling you, when I go on the warpath, man, it's so bad. I actually feel kind of bad when I'm done. There's I don't know. Hopefully some of my history buffs or those of you who have studied Greek mythology or any of the historical, like mythological texts, there's a story, and I cannot remember which god and goddess they were talking about, but it was this particular god, and he was married to, I guess she had to be a goddess, but I don't think goddess was her official title. She was a deity. They were both deities. And when she, when she gets upset, or when she got upset, she kind of sort of like went on killing sprees. And what makes this story so funny to me is that I guess some messengers came back to the Godhead deity and were like, your wife is out of control out here. She's killing everybody. And he wasn't like the men of today. No offense to the men listening. I know y'all are good guys, but a lot of men are real nasty towards women today. You know, a man of today would be like, oh, she's so embarrassing. She's not feminine. You're out here on a killing spree. You're not feminine. Come home. That's a man's job, right? But in this particular story, he was like, oh boy, that woman. And his solution was I think they either poured wine in the river or they dyed the river a certain color to make it look like, no, they got her drunk. Yeah, they got her drunk. His solution to get her to stop killing everybody, this is all mythological, you guys, I don't know which story it is, was to pour a bunch of alcohol in the river, knowing she would see it. And she did. And she went and drank it. And she got drunk and went home. Now that's a real man for you. That's a real man right there. That's a husband. That's a husband for you, baby. Hey, man, your wife's out here on a killing spree. Oh, man, that girl's out of control. All right, listen. Go dump a bunch of alcohol in the river. She'll see it. She'll smell it. She'll drink it. She'll get drunk. She'll come on home. And that's exactly what she did. God, I think that's so funny. Let me scroll down and see if any of you know what story I'm telling. Is it Athena? I don't know. It's one of them. It's one of those myths, or there's another word that I'm not thinking of that means myth. But yeah, so to me, that's a real man. It's like your wife is out here wiling, sir. What do you want us to do? Oh, man, just go get her drunk, man. She'll come on home. And that's exactly what they did. And she came right on home. So with that, you guys, I think that's actually a pretty good stopping point for us. I will try to figure out what story that is. Legend. Thank you. Legend, folktale. Thank you. Yes. I'll have to Google it. What I'm going to Google, if you're interested, is mythological wine river something. I have to find it though. But man, like talk about securing your manhood. Like your wife is out here on a killing spree and your solution is, just go ahead and get her drunk. She'll come on home. And she did. So with that, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. I did, as always. I have so much time, so much fun with you guys and spending time with you guys. It really is a joy for me as well. So thank you for coming. I'm going to try to get us some more content, I promise. And I'm going to try to make it a little bit more frequent because I'm not on quite as much of a warpath as I was about 2 weeks ago. So I'm back. So I hope you guys are doing great. If you're doing something tomorrow, stay safe. Remember what I told you about your drinks and these narcissists. Try to drink from sealed drinks, things that have been sealed, canned, bottled. Try not to accept drinks from people, especially not right now. It's just not a good idea. But be safe, whatever you do. Enjoy your day off. If you're having a day off, stay healthy. And we will talk again soon. I'll leave the chat open for about 2 or 3 minutes so you guys can wrap your conversations. And we'll talk again next time, okay? Bye.